One is how we were taught the language. Now, my father was an English teacher and he started with grammar. I hated that. I remember he said this book which says, my name is Bob, I live by the sea and my father is a fisherman. And he takes and analyzes that sentence and for 3 months I don't go for his English class. Who likes that? I think then you think there's this sacred rule that you shouldn't break. But when we learn to speak Sinhala, we break all these things at the beginning. Right? We don't say Vatura, we say Jojo and we say Tatta and all that and that. So that you see. Now, but English, no, you can't do that. So we learn about English. We had a teacher in my school, grade 10. The first part of the book is all grammar rules, you know, the sentence patterns. You have to combine 2, 3 and then keep repeating. Then the second part of the book had literature. So this teacher completes that grammar part and she goes back, start from there. So I said, teacher, when I'm starting the other part, I know the other part is more important. She said, no, I'm not yet ready. Then I said something, she got so angry and said, so I went. That was my last English class in school. So I think that is the problem. So we become experts on language, but language is to use now. And we talk of our broken English. Let me give a simple, interesting incident that happened. We used to handle the Korean advertising account. And Mr. Kodakuni, he was saying, Deepa, this is impossible to handle this account. I would rather give it up. Right? But it was a good account because you just place the ads and you get some money. And minor changes. So I went to see this Korean guy. Then I realized the problem. The guy who went to see him before me was very fluent like Arun. And that poor man cannot understand what he says. So I go, I say, okay. Then I say, okay, your idea, my idea, similar. You say, okay, I put ad. He understands. Then he said, okay, you first pay. First pay, yes pay, yes advertising, no pay, no advertising. I managed to communicate with him, he thought, and I always meant that after 4, because Koreans think that after 4 means you are working very hard. They like people who work very hard. So I got a meeting, and I kept the account. I think the problem is that in Sri Lanka we put English at a place that, still we think it's got its time, use it. But at the same time you find there's a new generation who don't care a damn about this and they use it. They say, give me a missed call. Right? And these days going, so I think for some toothpaste, they say if you have sensitive teeth, give us a missed call. Right? So that is okay. Your income is okay. And actually we have been using English in that way. Like the first technology that we got was the bicycle. Right? The bicycle. And even in the most rural area, the people speak English with bicycle. Other than Baulu Allamane, I don't think most of the young elite Kalamu will understand Baulu Allamane. Right? Every other single part of the bicycle is in English. And it's eka. Right? Bell eka, brake eka, hub eka, spoke eka, tire eka, luggage eka, dynamo eka. And you put eka and it becomes singular. I think we have figured out how to do it, how to deal with it. Then, about 30 years of my life, I have been involved in an interreligious dialogue and I have been moving with people in different countries. And they were Germans. And it's very interesting to see how Germans speak English. And they have their way of speaking English. They always look for the precise word. They don't want to be generalists like us. We, of course, on any topic we talk. They either know or don't know. And they understood me. So I think there is a degree within the context you can understand, but there may be always things that which confuse us. Right? So I think at the first level, the stigma business is still here. Because people and today you find that if you are not very fluent in English or if your vocabulary is very weak, then you put an enormous accent. Right? Most call centers, you press 3 for English and you get that experience. Right? They have an accent. Either they don't understand what you say, and you cannot understand what they say. Right? And that's another new phenomenon. It was not there 10 years ago. And so I think it's an interesting area to explore. And as she said, sometimes we may not know that they are not standard English because we have been using. I remember when I was in advertising those days, we had all these girls who spoke in English in the car, and the driver, they said, Deepa, it's very hot. No. Now the driver is saying, Deepa, not tell me that hot is last name, no is name. So I think it is hot, no.
We'll appreciate some of those dichotomies, shall we say, that prevail in this handling of the language. Now, you advocate that using it is important and communicating is the rationale. You need to communicate, and you mentioned the Korean example. I guess that would be broken English. Just a couple of words and thumbs up, thumbs down, and you communicate. Now, when writing for reading, literature and so on and so forth, then there's another challenge, and some of you may have some questions, and we'll entertain them in a moment. But we have a writer, and that's Amar Kirti. His story is interesting, and let's hear it from him, and then see what we can discern, because his personal experience, I think, has value with regard to a person handling the English language, or needing to handle it, or not handling it, or choosing not to, or choosing to, whatever.
Thank you, Arun. And my background is maybe like slightly different from yours. So my father was educated up to grade 3, my mother grade 9. I am coming from very rural Sri Lanka, Kurangala. So in the first place, we didn't have good English teachers at our schools when we were studying in the 70s and early 80s. Another thing is that is my inhibition, about speaking English. The hesitant came from this cultural or the class rather than the language itself. Language per se is okay. We study it at home and at school the way we can. In terms of grammar, mostly breaking sentences into pieces. But the class difference was quite, class consciousness was the factor making me shy. That I know that I belong to a certain class, and there's certain degree of anger in me too. That's a class, you could say class hatred, but I didn't hate like upper class people. I never did that. But that anger, when you fail in something, that anger can seep into you. Right? That also kind of like, without trying to speak English the way I could, yeah, but I would resist. That is a kind of like, it has nothing to do with the language, but it's something, the class consciousness, being self-conscious about your own class. And also when we were in university, unlike today, the English speaking people, or the students coming from English speaking families, could be like, you could recognize them quite easily. I'm trying to put it in very nice. Put it in so you can see, like, coming from my kind of background, okay, that person is from that kind of background. You can even say it even now, I can. But now, but now, even rural students wear some fancy clothes, kind of like the clothes had this some sort of like cosmopolitan international appeal that you can erase great deal of class identity now. But when you at the university, it's a little different, that's early 90s. But during those days I was, but let me tell you this, when I was a teenager, but like 14 years old, I started, I was a reader, avid reader. I read everything, really. So Martin Wickramasinghe, in his autobiography, Pandasita, talks about how he learned English. He was educated, formally educated up to grade 8, then he went into work, in books in English and similar. So he said that he read books to teach himself English. I also started reading small books like Beauty Simplified versions, things like that. When I was 14, I would read the books that my 7-year-old daughter would read right now. Small books. But reading could be quite boring too when it comes to, like, in terms of learning language, reading itself is quite boring. You won't use it. Yeah? But when I came to the University of Colombo, I met a bunch of very nice friends coming from English-speaking background. Some names I remember actually. Malindu Senegaratna was here. Malindu Senegaratna was one of the early friends who encouraged me to learn, read and speak. And then Nilikadi Silva, Professor Lakshmi Silva's daughter. She would sit with us, bunch of us, under a tree and trying to speak English with us. And then my friend Madhubashini Ratnayaka, she was the son in those days. She came from India and I was at third year, and she was helping. She helped me several times, read this and try to speak. And she even took me to her home, Professor J.B. Disanayaka's home.